Car audio. Tune in. What we talking about? Bass. Talking about chips. Talking about rings. You ain't got them. Zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found. Check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in. This week in car audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, Doug Stockton, and your co-host, special guest this week, Dave Bradshaw, Team Send It. Our special guest this week, last week we had on Mccain Alternators. This week we got somebody that even predates him. That's going to be Tom Eliopoulos. How do you say that last name, Tom?
Eliopoulos, but you did all right.
Doug gonna butcher that.
Oh no, no, it's been butchered a lot worse.
Oh yeah. Just ask Dave at my car shows. I can butcher some names out there.
Every time.
Yep. So you guys can see I'm here real quick. I'm sharing this. I'm almost done. If you guys, anybody watching this right now, please share this with as many groups as you can. Let's see if we can't get this thing to grow as good as we possibly can. Help us reach out and get other people involved in this thing. So
like and smash that share button. Make sure.
Yep. Share the like button. Don't forget to hit the angry button. Remember, Facebook loves the angry button. If you guys,
well, I'm on here, so I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of those angry buttons.
If you guys are on YouTube right now, watching us live on YouTube, hit the send a comment so I can see that you're watching. Justin says he doesn't ever think I butchered his name.
We got Brian Nyman in the house.
Yep.
Corey Collins. Looks like we got some MTX family in here.
All right.
Bro Stolman, Tony. Team Send It members.
Is Stolman with Team Send It now?
That's coming out. Yeah. I mean, I might as well make the announcement. I told him he is going to be official Team Send It member. I just haven't made the public announcement.
Well, apparently you just did.
Yeah, he asked me if I was going to announce it. I told him I was going to avoid. I want to be more professional, but since you asked.
All right, cool. Also, last week, like we said, we had Mccain Alternators on here. Now we're going to go with Ohio Generators. They are out of what part of Ohio are you out of?
We're in Louisville, Ohio, which is right outside of Canton.
Okay.
So we're Canton area, basically.
Louisville? I thought it was Louisville.
Well, it's Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, that's right, Louisville, Kentucky.
Named after St. Louis, so we're right next to the St. Louis church, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, spelled the same.
Yep.
So pronounced a little different.
Yep. So they predate Mccain. Mccain actually started about the same time, but as you heard from the gentleman last week, he kind of purchased it later on. But Mr. Tom here, he's been around the whole time. So tell us a little bit of history, Ohio Generators, your kind of history into the game of building, generator or alternators.
Started to shop with, I actually had a gas station, couldn't buy a starter alternator at work. So I'd buy them and fix them and put them on cars. And then I bought into a generator shop, and then I bought half, then I bought the other half. And brought my brother aboard, and we started doing a lot of government contracts, and we were doing really well. And I had a employee, Bert Orban. He had Orban Audio. He says, "Oh, you got to build high up alternators for car audio." So I didn't even have a clue what it was. Mm-hmm. So we gave him a certain amount of money, and he started doing it. And they weren't working quite right, so I got in on it because I was redesigning government starters and alternators. And the first alternators we were building were only like 120 to 130 amps. Okay. They're the old 10DN. Other companies at that time had the old 10DN, they call it, and then a large case Ford, and they'd sell you a bracket kit, and you'd have to make it fit. Those are mostly for like taxi cabs and the
Ambulance.
shuttle buses that ran, right?
Yep.
And I started taking specific alternators and high amp that alternator, whatever it was, be it, just different models. And I hooked up with a guy, Rob from Hoosier Electric. He did my stators and rotors. Then I got with Marcus, was an engineer for Transpo Electronics. They did rectifiers and regulators. So started out small, and there wasn't as many part numbers back then as there is now, so it's a lot easier. It just kept evolving and evolving, and I just kept making. I spent a lot of time, basically most of my life, doing R&D on alternators and making them bigger and better, and burning a lot of stuff up in the process, which is part of the fun.
Right.
But
TTD.
I've always loved the industry. I mean, my wife's waiting for me to outgrow it, but I don't know what to tell her. But it just kept evolving and evolving. But I really didn't have anyone to copy.
Right.
I designed regulators, rectifiers, stators, rotors, and then the combination of all the parts. And that's kind of where we're at now. Where I push high quality on every single part I can get. I push that. Just try to get the highest quality and make these things really work right. And we do have stuff that, well, we actually flew up a $50,000 test bench with the alternator, did about 420 amps. Didn't realize the alternator hurt the machine, but found out soon enough. But anyhow, but that's kind of the evolution. We just evolved from 120 amp alternators up to stuff that's actually hitting 400. We're rating them. I've got stuff we rated 350, but I like to underrate. I'm more of the old school instead of the overrating. But what I sell, I make sure it works right. And we are in the loudest cars on the planet right now. I mean, we've got world records all over the place.
Yeah. So who are some of the competitors that are running your stuff currently?
Boy, you had to do that to me.
Well, hey, you brought it up.
Right. Yeah, I should remember more names than I'm gonna remember right now. Daggone, he was like, and Sam Horn. We worked a lot with him, and you had mentioned him earlier. He was a judge in the Cleveland area.
Yep.
But I'm trying to think the guys that just hit that 180, was it 183 at World Finals?
RP.
Right, we're in their vehicle.
Oh, so RP runs like 7 vehicles, and you're pretty much
right.
If you're in one of his, most likely you're in all of them.
Right, but yeah, we are in the number one car. Then James Whitehead, he runs that Basehead Life out of Washington.
Oh yeah, Washington.
Right.
I just met him about a month ago.
Oh, he's a good guy to know. He helps.
Yeah,
he's one of those that likes to help people out too. If you need a hand, he'll help you. And well, we got so many. I'm trying to think. This guy in Texas has more world records than anybody's. Michael Jones.
Okay.
He's out of Texas. He has more world records than anybody else on the planet. And he has. Yeah.
I'd have to bring in some Andrew McCain. McCain's got 33 world records.
Okay.
So in car audio,
right.
That's a lot.
All right. Oh, it sure is. Yeah, and that's respectable.
No, it absolutely is. I almost brought him on tonight, but instead I brought Dave on. But yeah, no, he's good. Andrew McCain, his like you said, you do the TTD, right? Test to destruction when you're trying out new stuff. Well, he tested to destruction his van through the years, and he was hitting. I think he said a 73.8 or something in Super Street class, and this was, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. Yeah.
You're right.
So
I was at a show in Greenville, North Carolina. 139 was the loudest car on the planet. And I watched Mark Fukuda did like a 143, and you never seen so many people go nuts, and you're like, a 143.
Yep.
That was the world record at that time, and it was just the place went crazy. But I've witnessed a lot of that stuff happen. It was great.
So
I loved it.
Do you know Matt Bransoy? He was out of Wisconsin. He was the one who brought the CRX to the DB drag world. He's the one that introduced it. It was a yellow CRX. I don't remember what he ran specifically. I think he ran digital design stuff. but he so he was the first guy to do 150 in the street classes. And then so I ended up being the third guy to do 150 in street classes. And then that's when I evolved into a judge shortly after that. But yeah, so I mean, some of that stuff was really cool. I built back in 2000 or 99. I built a Super Street 1-2 vehicle that was doing 59s, and you know, the only amplifiers we had back then were a couple of 1,000-watt amplifiers, and we could only get 2 of them to each sub because they were dual voice coil before the quads came out, you know?
Right.
So, you know, we're running realistically about 4,000 watts, and I'm doing high 58s, low 59s with it in a Super Street 1-2 vehicle. So, you know, those are great numbers. And, you know, back then we had to really, really focus on efficiency.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. It was. And now you can overcome efficiency with power. That's a big deal.
Right.
And then part of it too, back then we had to use, they actually made a rule in DB drag. I don't know if it was used specifically, but they changed the rules, and I can't remember exactly when, but they changed the rule where you had to use a factory alternator. But I know a lot of people that may have had a factory GM alternator case.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I might have heard about that. But no, we did that with MTX, Alma Gates. We did her vehicles. Scott Owens with Panasonic.
Yeah.
Kicker, Rockford. We were in a lot of huge vehicles that those guys did.
Yeah. Scott Owens was on here a few months ago. I actually called him too to see if he wanted to come and talk to you because I knew he ran your stuff.
Yeah.
So I was initially when
That's
Lucky
fine.
told me that he wasn't going to be here, then I started calling people that I know ran your stuff throughout the years, and they all happened to be busy. It was a short-term thing. You know, Lucky ran into some personal issues. He called me, you know, like an hour and a half or 2 hours ago and just said, hey, I ain't going to make it tonight. You know, find a fill-in. So, but, you know, Lucky's here. He's done 37 of my 39 shows or 36 of my 39 shows with me. So, you know, he's usually hearing about, and he's a great guy, and, you know, he's a good ambassador for the sport too.
All right.
So, I did have a question for you brought to us directly from Sam. He said something about you, Bruce Lee, and a Datsun. He said you might have Bruce Lee's Datsun or something.
It's English Rover.
Okay.
It's a British car.
Oh.
And the guy I bought it from actually said it was Bruce Lee's car in California. And I've never been able to prove it. It said Bruce Berman Lee on the title, but I still own that car. But yeah, I was never able to 100% prove it, and then he did. That's what he drove, was those Rovers.
Oh, okay.
So,
was it yellow?
Not white.
Oh, okay.
When I was white, but yeah.
Very cool. And then
still sitting there.
and so, I mean, you don't do anything with that. Is that your daily driver? Just kind of sits and.
Oh, I have too many cars. Cars and motorcycles out the wazoo.
So
yeah.
That's where Sam told me to go next.
James White actually commented, Tom is the man, and he says you have some sweet old school Harleys.
Yes, that's what Sam said to get at you next. Talk to you about your Harleys. What do you got?
The oldest is a 1917 Harley. It's a V-twin, 3-speed, right. And you light the headlight and the tail light. It's got carbide lights on it. And then I've got a 21. I've got 6 Indians, and I forget how many Harleys. I kind of lost count. But I just buy them. I don't sell them. But I do have a 1936 4-cylinder Indian also, and that's cool. But I ride my rider's a 52 Indian Chief. That's the one I put around on.
That's got to be cool. Way more comfortable than the 19 Indian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that 1917 actually has a lot of spring action on it, and the Indians have a lot of spring. But I've had some Harleys where they're a tougher, whatever, rigid frame. Those things are hard.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I love rebuilding old cars and motorcycles, and yeah, that stuff's kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
Hey Tom, what year did you start with the alternators exactly?
Well, I incorporated the shop in '79, but I was doing it a couple of years before that. And then, once I incorporated, I brought my brother and his partner, and we started doing like local rebuilding, and our stuff was off the charts because you really couldn't buy a good starter and alternator back then. You buy something, put it in a car, and hope it works. So started going with the higher level of quality, and we were really, really. I got up to 30 employees within 5 years. We were doing over. We borrowed 20,000 to get started. Within 5 years, we were doing over $1 million a year, and I was doing buku government contracts until we did 40,000 alternators for the military. We're building 500 a day. It took almost 3 years to build them. But
what were those going in, if I can ask?
It was called a Cook V. It was basically a Suburban and they had 2 alternators on them, and they would use them. They would for 24 volts to jumpstart tanks, but that's what they were using them for. And yeah, those did well. And then the economy crashed, the stock market went to hell, and everything went in hell in a handbag. Basically, it just fell out from under us really, really fast. So I kept the high amp alternator part of it, and we pretty much shut down the rest of it. We were losing money staying open. I had 30 employees.
So
the government contracts is where you go. It's like a $10,000 alternator to them.
Yeah, well, I wasn't but I wasn't overcharging them. When that stock market crashed and seemed like everything fell in at once, it was a tough hit. And my brother lost a lot of interest. We could have kept the commercial stuff going, but then the Chinese stuff started coming in. We couldn't even buy the parts to fix a starter alternator for what they were selling a whole unit for. And so it we got hit all at once. Perfect wrong timing. So, but the high amp stuff, I kept that going, and it's doing well. It always had.
So you had a competitor, guy that worked for you that was a competitor, and he's got you into that. So did he help kind of start getting you into like the external regulated? And
Bert was doing capacitors.
Okay.
He started doing capacitors before everybody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was way ahead of it. It was called Orban Audio, and he repaired a lot of stuff for rental places that rent televisions and anything with a speaker in it. He would do a lot of speaker repair. But unfortunately, he had a heart attack at a very young age and passed away. But he's an inspiration to get it started. Okay. And then we just kept it going from there.
So has there been like one competitor or a handful? Is there like somebody that really sticks out to you that really helped you develop towards the car audio side of the Ohio generators as it is now?
Well, I started going to, I've been to every Daytona spring. I missed 4, but I've been to every Daytona spring break except for 4 of them. Okay. So once I went to one of those, it was like, holy crap. It was like a new world. It just something I hadn't seen. And that's kind of, I don't know what to call it, disease or a drug or whatever. I just caught the bug and couldn't stop. I had so many people wanting, can you do this? Can you do that? I kept trying to satisfy what people's demands were and stuff. Yeah. And I did stuff with television shows, Pip My Ride. I've known Mike and Cabe Sipe, and actually at Slamology, Cabe Sipe's booth is always next to mine, so he spends a whole weekend trying to aggravate me, which he does pretty well, but we have fun with that, And Mike showed up one year for that too, and then and a bunch of, last year he had about 3 or 4 guys that were on that show that actually came out. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, and Slamology, boy, I don't know what happened without them. That's really helped open eyes back up and it helped grow the industry a lot. It did. So that started out at a real low. My first Slamology, there was 45 cars competing, and me and Scotty Johnson were the only 2 vendors. That was it. And I was going from that to, geez.
Yeah.
It's gone
last year I ran the DB drag portion of that, and we went through 113 individual competitors.
Wow.
So, yeah. And that was DB drag only, right? That doesn't include Mecca,
right,
all that stuff.
Right.
So,
yeah. Was Slamology still at the same venue back then, or did it morph into where it is now at the Raceway place?
No, when I first went to it, it was at the raceway, but it was only like where the oval track part was, and there wasn't even that many people there. I mean, it just expanded to where it uses the whole facility now.
Yeah. Kind of like what Stockton Beatdown started out as, and hopefully that's going to grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but he doesn't overcharge. He gets people in at a reason, because a lot of these kids that get into this don't have a lot of money.
Yep.
So if you can help them out, we don't charge them as much. Heck, we used to give away food until they tell me I can't cook anymore. I used to give away burgers, pop. If you showed up at our booth, it was free. Whatever you want, we just gave it away.
Yep.
And kind of upset a few vendors because they were getting $9 for burgers, but they were. So we used to give all that stuff away.
No.
What's the biggest alternator that you've ever tried to build? Have you ever had any crazy requests?
Oh, you always get the requests, but the ones that the highest amp one we did like that 418. That's before it shut the machine down. It might have gone higher. That's in a large case Denso hairpin, and it had very custom parts in it. But we were revving it as high as we could, putting the biggest load on, as much field current. I mean, we were running it to its max, which it'll never do on a car. I mean, that's how I actually do my R&D, is by making something that I blow it up, and then I fix the parts that blow up and try to modify it. But without physically getting larger in size, you're not going to get a lot more out of that thing. At 350, 380, that's about what it's going to do.
So what's your biggest amp or biggest alternator? Like if I were to just go on your website or whatever and order an alternator for my GM, obviously, what do we drive around here? Tahoes. Everybody's got a Tahoe. So I need a Tahoe alternator, so that's going to be a big case GM.
And we rate those. Right. I rate them at 350. They do 370 to 380 peak. But like I say, I underrate all that stuff. But they hold up at that. If you try to make them do more and put adjustable regulator and crank stuff up, their whatever longevity is a lot shorter.
Well,
it also has to do with duration, how hard you run it.
Yeah.
If you're sitting at idle running the piss out, it's not going to last as long, obviously. But if you're driving it and you're paying attention to what you're doing, they last a lot longer. But that duration makes these things heat up. I've seen guys just melt this stuff. We get them in there melted. It broke. Alternator can't burn out if it isn't functioning. It has to actually work in order to burn out. I go, huh? But yeah, that's not pointing fingers, pal, but it's burn out. You know?
I'm just saying the DB drag guys, because I'm a DB drag guy. Obviously, I'm a judge and whatnot. But I'm just saying our DB drag guys, we tend to be on the little bit on the extreme side of things we do to our cars, whether it's building them, alternators, amplifiers, batteries, all that stuff. We do the extreme end of all that, obviously.
Right.
So.
James, go ahead.
No, do you remember the death match? They used to have death match.
Well, we had one this year at World Finals.
Which World Finals?
Both of them. So, but the one in the West Coast, on the East Coast, we did a death match at the World Finals. It was like a 142 or something like that, or 145, and the guy says he was only quarter volume or whatever. He won.
Right.
On the West Coast, so what happened was Wayne would go out and audition the vehicles. So we had Ray Maestas, and we had Lucky McGovern, we had Josh K2, and Moses Martinez. So Moses, he just picks the wrong song and doesn't do it right. So, but he's very capable of doing in the 50s. But Lucky and Ray, the last 2 minutes, literally every like 3 seconds, it would change lead. It'd be like Lucky would be a 150.3 or 151.3, and then Ray would be a 151.4, and then a couple 3 seconds 151.5, and they just kept going up and up and up until Lucky, all of a sudden the magic smoke came out of the back of his truck.
No fire? I've seen a few catch
on
fire.
No. Actually, no fire. It was smoke.
Okay.
Yeah, he fried a coil on his subs, and I mean, you can only push those things so hard before they start going sideways and rubbing, and then poof.
Yeah, right.
So
years back when they were running them, we won almost every single death match. I mean, every place. There were like 3 or 4 that whatever had other, equipment in their vehicles, but that was fun to watch. I tell you, that was a blast.
What'd you think of the death match this year, Dave?
It was great. It was fun. I think that's what really got the crowd pumped.
Right, it does.
Everybody, everybody was there. Everybody was filming. I was actually help blocking for Lucky, but it was great. I think that should be something that we kind of do more often.
So I used to do it at all my 1X shows, and I would actually bring like a 3-foot or a 4-foot trophy for the winner of death match. And it would be a death match winner, but people started complaining about it and whatnot, so we just kind of let it go. I may bring it back for all my multi-point events next year. I think that's reasonable because I don't have a ton of multi-point events, and so unlike some of the other judges, I only do 3 or 4 multi-point events a year. Maybe 5 at most. But I try and keep the multi-points down because that way it gives them value when they do come up.
Right.
So that's a little something I do different than some of the other judges around. And, and I'm doing 24 to 35 shows a year, which is way more than any other judge in the world does.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of shows.
That is. We're very fortunate here in California. Our show season literally is 12 months a year. We slow down in the end of October, beginning of November. We usually don't have very many shows in that time frame. And then, in October we start doing, or November we start doing our Toys for Tots. November, December, January we have 1 or 2 shows, and then February we usually have Autorama, and then come March is usually maybe 1 show, and then May, June hit, and we're 4 or 5 shows a week, 4 or 5 shows a month,
All right.
So
yeah, it gets pretty crazy around here at times. Everybody's throwing show. James White says, tell Tom hi for me.
Okay, cool. Hey, James.
Hey,
You're a good guy.
So I do have a question for you.
right.
What? So he mentioned you make the baddest ass hairpin. What's a hairpin?
Okay. Well, it's the design of instead of like round wire, the round on the stator. It's more of a rectangular shaped wire, but it's done by robots. But the wire is like perfectly. It's the same all the way around. It's very uniform and stuff. And they're made by some really smart guys got together and put these hairpin alternators together. The wires are so close they almost touch, but it maxes out the efficiency of the alternator because they have lower turn on speed. The max power out of an alternator. Years ago, you couldn't get. We're getting 300 amps out of an alternator now. You couldn't get 100 amps out of that size alternator 15 years ago. So it's newer technology, and it's really, really come a long way.
So it's a triangle, right? Like this. So you got a triangle. And then they fit, interlock, and then does it add more surface area so you can stuff more wire to create more amperage? Is that the basic?
Well, it's actually rectangular wire.
Oh, it's rectangular.
It's rectangular,
so
right?
Okay.
And
So
it's
the
so
flat
close
wound.
you think it's touching, right?
So
right.
so it's similar to the flat wound we do in speakers, then, because we use the
Yes,
flat
yes.
wound aluminum.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it is similar to that.
Okay.
So what are the different types of alternators? I know you say hairpin. What are the other ones? I'm not too.
Before the hairpin, it's just a round wire, and it's kind of randomly wound on there. And they're kind of alternators of the past. So you still have to build them for certain units just because you can't get anything else on the car. But really, right now, it's the hairpin alternators is pretty much the whole industry is doing those, unless they're doing a old style something you can't do anything else with them. But yeah, the hairpin is definitely where most of the industry's at right now.
So is it just the hairpin, or is there other modules that have to be changed versus the old style?
Well, it's built as a unit, so all the parts have to correspond. The rotor that spins, because the hairpins have 72 slots in them, and the older wound alternators have like a 36 slot. So hairpin's actually twice twice as much power. It's inductive power, basically. So there's actually the newer hairpin, the way we're building them, it's actually 2 alternators in one. You can burn out half that alternator and the other side it'll keep working. So
Oh,
it's similar to a dual output.
there you go.
For that 72 slots, and then you have more slots on the rotor, has more poles, north and south poles on it.
So that's actually pretty cool comparison. So when I was getting involved with amplifiers, me and a handful of our friends were building bridging modules before bridging modules were a thing. And
Right.
we were able to start linking amplifiers together before. I mean, we were back with working with Robert Zeff. You know, I don't know if you remember the 9K that he came out with, which was 2 4.0s that we linked together.
Bridge, right.
Yeah. So, and that was like one of the first bridging ones, and we were able to create some badass bridging modules that you can literally unlimited amplifiers into that. But we started with that technology, and it was all external to the amplifier. Then it became internal to the amplifier, and then from there, now we have these amplifiers that are just insane, you know, because we were looking at 1,500 watts back then, and we were able to bridge them to create these 3,000 watt amps and these 4,500 watt amps and stuff like that. And I could see absolutely 100% the alternator world going that same way, right? Because you're starting with this, you know, it makes it cool and exciting that you're on the forefront of building these newer technologies.
It's an evolution of the industry.
Yeah.
They just keep going. Yeah. It just keeps going. I mean, I don't see an end to it, but you never know what's going to tomorrow's technology. Yeah. You have no idea what's going to come, you know, around the corner, but there's something going on.
So with tomorrow's technology, where do we sit with like these Teslas? So where I live, in my neighborhood, there's probably 100 Teslas. Okay. I know, but I live right next to the Tesla plant. So, and everybody that lives in my neighborhood works for Tesla. That's why there's probably 100 of them.
Okay.
So, but with that being said, I know Nathan Munson just bought a Tesla, and you know they're starting to branch out. And GM just made an announcement they're going to start a whole line to compete with Tesla. And Tesla's not the only brand out there making electric cars. So where do the alternators fit in that kind of world?
Well, if they're all electric, the alternators are out the window. If it's 100% electric car, if it's a hybrid where they got, you know, gas over electric, you know, they're spinning something. But as far right now, electric cars, they either tap off the batteries they have, because most of them are 48 volt.
Right.
So they tap in to get their 12 volt or what have you. But I haven't seen a lot of success in that stuff as of yet.
Yeah.
Because they're still, but they charge you, plug the car in to charge it.
So out here, I live in California, as we like to call it. So, so your tax dollars at work, you know, they hit me up for a fairly good chunk of my change every year. I believe my effective tax rate last year was in the high 30%. So, but with that being said,
is that where all my parts are still waiting?
Outside of LA. Yes.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the parts. They're out in the ocean. They're on a boat.
Yeah. So, but all over around here, their charging stations are free. So I don't know of any of them that charge out here. And that's one of the incentives of their theft from me, taking my tax dollars. They thieve it from me and give it to these other companies to put in these charging stations at no cost to the car owner, you know.
All right.
Right. Yeah. We got a couple questions in here.
Good.
Ted Reeves is asking, will we ever see more amps 500 plus? Sounds like you probably need a new bench tester if you're going to get that. And then, well, you can answer that one first.
Well, it depends on duration. You can, you'll probably see them, but they're going to have to physically be bigger in size. So they got to, I mean, there is stuff that goes on industrial equipment, railroad equipment, or a lot of big military stuff, or Greyhound buses. They're physically huge in size. So there is stuff that does 500 amps, but you got to make it fit your car. So as far as the size, the alternator coming down to fit, you're better off putting 2 alternators on in most cases to get that higher amperage.
Or instead of a blower out the hood, you can
that's what I was
one
gonna say.
giant alternator.
That's what I was. Dude, I can imagine like a big old turbo sticking out, but it's an alternator.
And Matt with MTX did what the heck was that car? He had 2 alternators it was cut away. They were over the hood. They were visible.
Yeah,
Forget that
they had that in their booth at CES. I remember seeing that. That was a pretty cool.
Do you
little
know
feature.
Dan Blue Ghost?
Boy, that's a very familiar name.
He makes all these custom alt brackets for a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, the Blue Ghost. Right.
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd ever.
I know of him. I've actually got his paperwork sitting on my desk. What happened was we got so busy, and I've been having problems with getting employees that want to work for more than 3 months. And get them in, you train them, and they're gone.
You don't know anything about that, do you, Dave?
Oh heck no! But I just ended up working a lot of extra hours this summer, and we had a phenomenal year. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Didn't you tell him you're too old to work that many hours?
Who, me?
Yeah, you, Tom. Dave's still a spring chicken.
Which age? Yeah, right. No, what are you going to do? Go home and sit around? I mean, I love my job.
Hey.
I really enjoy doing this stuff.
Hey, 100% with you. So check this out. So my daughter came and visited. First time in, I believe, 6 years, I've had all 3 of my kids in the house at one time. I brought my wife to tears. My babies are going to be finally home. My youngest is 21. My oldest is roughly 30, right? So, so our kids are up and gone. They're all over the country. And so we had them all home for Thanksgiving this year. And, my kids are like, Dad, do you ever stop? I'm like, why? Just sit around, watch TV? That's boring as hell. I live on a lake. I go outside. I'll go fishing. I'm not fishing. I go bowling. I'm not bowling. I'm doing car show stuff, right? I'm not a big sit around the house kind of guy, and drives my wife nuts sometimes. So.
That's where I'm at. I like moving.
Yes.
So once in a while, I'll take a weekend off and sleep for a day or something just to recharge my batteries. But for the most part, I'm always working.
Yeah.
Do you have another question here? Just trying to hit these questions for people.
Yeah.
Someone asked, do you do custom alts for Civics?
Yeah, it depends on what year and model, but I do have a version of alternators where we actually, and it depends. Some of them are just too small; they're the size of a donut, and they're hard to do anything with. But a lot of those smaller alternators, I actually buy the alternator. I just use the front housing. I machine it out and I put the back end of another alternator on it. And a lot of the Hondas, like depending on what year and model or what have you, they could give us a call on it. But I do a lot of the Hondas, Toyotas, Nissans, Mazdas, stuff that no one else will touch them because they are technical.
The guy says a 99 SI. He says he currently has 185 amps. So what would what's the biggest you could build for something like that? Is that 185 the max size or?
Oh, no, probably around 260 to 270 where we would do that. But I would still, 99. So that's probably a 1.6 or 1.8 motor. Yeah, the newer ones.
So how would he get in contact with you? That's a great question.
Call Ohio Generator. Need my phone number?
Yeah, sure. Throw it out there.
330-875-6677.
Hold on. Say that again. I'm going to put it in the chat. Hold on a second. Ohio Generator.
Correct. 330.
Generators. Oops.
There's no S on the end.
330. Go ahead.
875. 6677.
Oops. 6677.
All
All right. There you go.
Or ohiogen.com.
Yep. James White. Throw that. Jamie's White just threw that right in there. He's like, hey, here you go. Bam.
All right.
Hey, Tom, I have a funny question for you. I was just curious. Has anybody ever told you look like Paul from Orange County Choppers?
He's got the stash.
Well, kind of, sort of. I've been called a lot worse, though. But yeah, I have been, I've had a couple of people make that comment.
I
But,
was just curious because you have all the bikes, and then I actually pulled up a picture up here on my other screen. I was like,
oh,
wait,
okay.
there's some resemblance there.
Oh yeah, that's my cousin now.
So Corey actually has a question here that I was going to hit you with next. So I've been, so I was a physics major in college, and I found a new YouTube, thing that I'm a big fan of, and it's basically just lectures. But I always like to learn, and I'm driving. I drive 3 to 4 hours a day, so I'm always in my car, and I'm listening to stuff. And so I've been learning about diodes, or not diodes, but superconductors and all that, where, man, it's amazing the technology and how those things work. So this guy actually just brought up, what are your thoughts on using diodes to raise voltage?
Well, we've been doing that for 30-some years.
Okay.
You can do that on. We used to just use a resistor. If the alternator has a sense wire coming out of it on the regulator plug, we used to put a resistor in line on that. We did that on GM cars back in the late 60s, early 70s. And it would kick the voltage up.
Right.
But then we started using a diode because it works as a resistor, but when you turn the key off, it stops the backflow of current.
Right.
So the diodes work good. You just have to make sure it works good for your system. So I've seen people put too many diodes, get the voltage too high, and then the car doesn't run right, or the amps clip out, or it's not a balance.
ECM goes bye-bye.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of things that can happen, but as long as you do your homework on it, those work great.
There you go. You catching any other ones in here? I see Brian Nyman posted in here. Like I said, Jamie's White. Is that James?
Yeah,
James.
Yeah, he just spells it different. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I met up in Oregon.
Ted
Right.
Reeves posted in here. Some guy named Dave Bradshaw's in here. Cedric Wu, Wellington.
What do you think of externally regulated?
Well, it depends on the situation, what you want the car to do. For most vehicles, if it's your daily driver and it's a weekend warrior type thing, I don't really recommend adjustable regulators, because most of the external regulators are adjustable, is kind of what they're getting at with that. So it just depends on the situation. They work good on a lot of vehicles, and others. Problem is, people they try to turn the voltage up when they're in a dead idle, and they just overload the alternator. You have to turn the RPMs up a little too. I mean, it's like a limo or like an ambulance will pull up to a scene. They push a button, it speeds the motor up.
Right.
They can do whatever they want. Car audio, they just want to crank the voltage and not turn those RPMs up. They screw up emission controls, O2 sensors go bad, they blow stuff up, and they blame everybody else. But you have to, you got to do the whole thing if you want it to work right.
Yep.
It's duration at that point, how long you run it. Because I've seen people at 4.3 GM, I've seen more than one person blow head gaskets on them from sitting idling too long. Just overheat the motor.
Yep. Hey, if any of them ever owned a VW, they would know not to sit idle.
Right.
Air-cooled cars do not like to be sat idle.
Oh, heck no. No, they do not. But,
no, that's all good stuff.
I do have one comment to make.
Oh, go ahead.
There's people saying on how to test alternators, never, never, never pull the battery cable off the car when your engine's running. What that does, there's an old school, pull the cable if the car keeps running, the alternator works. Well, as soon as you put it back on, well, when you pull it off, the alternator thinks the battery went dead and goes into its highest rate of charge.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you put it on, there's a voltage spike or transient spike, and it blows all sorts of crap up. And on a newer Cadillac, you can do $3,000 to $6,000 damage from spiking out your computer.
Whoa.
So whoever says to do that, don't do that. That is how to ruin your car.
So
I have a question. I was driving my CRX this weekend. I drove it, was working fine. I have the power wire going directly back to my lithium battery. when I started it, it would idle fine, and everything was charging. As soon as I revved the engine, it popped the breaker in the back. And when it was charging on the voltmeter, it said 12.3. As soon as it popped the breaker to where there was no power going from the alt to it, my lithium battery voltage meter went to 15.2 or 15.1. And I'm just curious, is that the alt is going straight back to my battery? That's what starts my car. I did a bypass. So is something happening with my alt?
Yeah, but are you bypassing up front between the alternator and the rear battery?
Yeah, I did a battery delete just so
Right.
I
Well, here's the answer. You need to go from the alternator to the battery and back up front, because you're reading the voltage in between the battery and the alternator. So you got the alternator and the battery, and you're sampling the voltage there. The vehicle's supposed to pick it up after the battery, so that's why the voltage goes funny. Because
it was fine when I took it up to finals and everything. 14.8, everything.
Right.
Nothing happened. I let it sit for 2 weeks, and now it's popping the breaker when I started, and then when I idled it and I went to drive it, it popped the breaker again.
Right.
And it's just going straight back. So I was just curious. I didn't know if the alternator was throwing something or
it's sensing the voltage in the wrong spot. It's supposed to sense that voltage after the battery, not between the battery and the alternator. For the vehicle,
the actual voltmeters on top of the battery.
Right, but your battery deletes between the alternator and the battery. You usually have the battery.
No, actually, the alt is going all the way to the back, and then the battery delete one that would go to the stock battery at front. That's just on some wood on posts just to keep them separated. So there is no battery up front. That's why I'm just curious, because this happened.
Right, but where's the front of the vehicle, the wires that used to go to the battery, what are they connected to?
To a post mounted on some wood, taped up so it doesn't touch anything.
They're so it's an open circuit. So it's connected to an open circuit.
Yeah, but I wasn't having any problems for months. For months, nothing happened. I didn't have no issues, and then all of a sudden, just started doing this weekend. And I was just wondering if the alternator was sending a surge to the battery or something, and it was popping a 300.
Yeah, but how is the rest of the vehicle getting its voltage to run like your accessories? Are you running a wire back to the front from the rear battery?
Yeah, there's actually the power that's going from the alternator to where we go to the first battery that's deleted. There's still power being redirected up front to those wires.
Right, but it's got to go to the rear battery, then back up front.
Yeah.
It's got to be after that battery.
Yeah.
It can't be at the battery. It can't be in line between the alternator and the battery, because that's an issue we deal with almost daily.
Okay.
They're sensing so it's sampling the voltage, but it's on its way from front to back. It's actually got to be after the battery is where it's supposed to sense it, because that sensing tells the regulator what to do.
It was just odd because it ran fine for months and months. I drove it to the Bay Area, back, never had anything. So I sat it for 2 weeks. And then as soon as
the battery got real low.
Actually, you know what? It did. It actually went dead. I charged it up, and it's fine now. It's sitting at 15.
Oh yeah, the battery goes real low, because for that circuit breaker to blow it, what's it, like a 300 amp or 250 amp?
It's one of those breaker fuses that pop.
Right.
You just hit the little switch.
They ain't cheap.
Popping that when I rev it up.
Yeah, that sounds like the battery went way down.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, that's good. I mean, that's part of what we do this for, is to help get people learn. He's been doing this. Tom's been doing this a very long time. He's got a wealth of knowledge for you guys that have questions for him. Like I said, if you have any more questions, you can hit us up in the chat right here, either on Facebook or on YouTube. We also accept donations. Just so you guys know, we take tips for the host. That's Venmo at SonicFX, SonicFX, and Cash App, $SonicFX. As Lucky likes to say, no $100 is too small. So we'll take
since
any
Lucky's
tips.
not here, I'll take his cut today.
But anyway, so just want to put that out there. Remember, we have a link for our Cash App and also our Venmo in the description of all of our live feeds. Remember, always smash the like button, the thumbs up, the heart button, and the angry face to help us get more traction. If you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, smash the like button, share, and comment. If you comment outside of the live feed itself, it gives me more traction on YouTube to help try and grow that channel also. So I appreciate you guys doing that and helping us out. The whole idea behind what we're doing here is try to get more people involved in car audio. If we don't grow, we die.
Smash that angry button.
I saw a bunch of angry buttons go up.
Yeah, that was.
When can we pay our 2022 DB Drag membership on TurnPro? You can go and do that right now. It is available. I don't know what else, but I do know somebody called me and asked, and I walked them through it, and it was available on the website. So you can go to the TurnPro website to do it.
Is the rule book gonna be available with it? 'Cause I know usually when you pay it, they mail everything.
So they stopped doing that about 2 years ago. They don't mail the rule book anymore. It is just a online version. So, and obviously they're going to have a lot of pictures. They usually have like this picture right behind me right here. That was one of the pictures used in the rule book a couple of years ago. So we try to use pictures from the East Coast location and the West Coast location to try and, spread the love of all the people that participate. Doesn't matter if you're on the East or on the West. If you love car audio, you enjoy to compete, go out, have fun, do what you love to do. Part of how you get louder and how you make a better system, stronger system, you got to start with power. You cannot use one of those 30,000 watt amps if you can't provide it with power. You need alternator, then you need batteries, because if you have batteries that you can't charge, they don't do you any good. So
sounds like you need an Ohio generator.
Right. Well, here's my rule of thumb. You need 70 amps for every 1,000 watts that you're actually using at a given moment. And that number is real close. It's been picked up by engineers and you name it. That number's, with today's technology, I'll throw the kicker in there. But that number is real close. So you want to put 30,000 watts in your car with a 300 amp alternator, you're better off going to 10,000. It'll be louder because it's so inefficient.
Yep.
It's like putting 4 different size tires on your car. It'll still go down the road, but it ain't going to go down the road very good. You match up tires and line it up, and it'll go down the road a whole lot better.
Yep.
So question with that. I see a lot of guys going with C-Max, a lot of C-Max, and they don't run that many alternators, but the discharge rate is the C rating or whatever it is, a discharge rate is better, right? So is that a good combination if you don't have room for alternators? Does it go to a better
it depends on what you're building the vehicle to do. I mean, if you're just burping it, that's a great combination. You can just charge the batteries and burp it. It doesn't even need to be hooked to an alternator. But if you're trying to get that longer duration, then you've got to do the math on it. So I got running C-Max have 2 alternators. One to run the car at the lower voltage, and then they're running 15.5 or whatever to the C-Max, and they split it up so they're not that high voltage isn't going through their vehicle either. A lot of vehicles don't like high voltage. You get over 15 volts, some cars they won't run right. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the whole. You got to when you own a car, you got to figure out what is the factory voltage set point on the vehicle you own, because there's 65,000 part numbers on alternators right now. I don't know the answer to every one of them.
Right.
All right. So, hey, real quick before we get too far into this, I want to bring up this weekend in Fresno, because I really only work with the West Coast guys. We'll start talking about shows again next week. But this weekend in Fresno, there's an IASCA, a USAC, it's a multi-org event. They do not have DB Drag at that event, but they do have a Toys for Tots down in Fresno at Ray Aragon's shop. That's on Saturday. Then the following Sunday, we're going to be at the best Toys for Tots in the whole country, Nyman shop. Tom, I know you've never been, but the the Toys for Tots. This was actually how we started Toys for Tots with DB Drag. I started doing them for Brian Nyman at his parents' shop. And I was like, Wayne, hey man, do you want to kind of like throw in towards this, just like waive the fee or whatever? And that's how we kind of started the Toys for Tots thing. And now this is the 12th consecutive year we've had a Toys for Tots at Nyman's. COVID didn't even stop us. He gets 2 trailerfuls that he takes out to the Shriners Children's of just toys. And it's it's absolutely awesome what we do. The guys that compete, Dave and the Team Send It guys, not necessarily just them, but we have Team SSC and all these guys come out. Bill and Melissa Johnson come out with their dogs, and dude, they don't bring cheap toys. When we're sending stuff off to the Shriners and the Battered Women's Shelter, we have RC cars, we have drones, we have nice bicycles for girls, for boys. We have Barbie houses. I mean, we aren't sending them junk toys. And it is absolutely one of the best shows that we have all year long. Participation's high. We have Hot Cocoa out there. Who is it? Napa provides stuff for us to sell. Walmart does for us to raffle off. And a lot of times people win that raffle and then they just give it back to the kids. We have, bring hundreds of dollars with you for the raffle, because all that money goes out to the kids also. We have Mr. and Mrs. Claus there for taking pictures, which I'm sure you'd be a great stand-in for Mr. Claus.
Yeah, you would.
You're already there with the white hair.
If you have a chance to come out here, you have a chance to come here and be a part of it. It's a great thing. Nyman and his Team DC Audio members, they do a awesome event. It's a really good cause. It's a great outturn or outcome.
Yeah.
No,
it's awesome. The very first year we did it, I had a minivan and I filled that thing front to back with stuff, and that was our first year. And now it's grown so exponentially now that there's no parking spots. We start at 10 a.m. By 9:30. If you weren't there, you ain't parking. You're gonna have to park down the road.
Yeah, I think if it gets any bigger, Nyman's going to have a shuttle service to get you to the event.
That's cool.
No,
that's great.
Yeah, it's a totally awesome event. His parents go all out for it. They make little Santa's Village, for the pictures. And, it is really cool. I just, like I said, that's one of my favorite shows of the year. Obviously, I do it at free, no cost. Obviously, part of the deal with the Toys for Tots is I can't accept any money. I never would, and if I did accept money, it goes right back to what we're doing with the cause. It's also for somebody just watching or catching this on the audio or watching it back on YouTube or whatever. That event will be Sunday the 12th, and I'll tell you right now, if you never competed before, this is the best opportunity you'll ever have. It costs you a $20 toy. We don't give out trophies because that way we aren't spending money on the event. Money goes all back to the kids. But you just bring yourself a $20 toy. It's an opportunity. You can do base race. You can do top dog. You can do cyclone. You want to try a new class? Bring an extra toy. Try a new class. It's a $20 toy per class. I can't even. I'm going to have so many pictures. I'm going to send you guys all the information, but it's, I just can't explain how well that event is run every year, year after year, 12 years running. So, but we are running up on the hour. I want to give Tom his, you have any last thoughts and, anything to help tell people where to meet with you and get a hold of you and find your stuff?
Yeah, the OhioGen.com, and then we got a form you can fill out there. If they've got any technical questions, they call. A lot of times you got to leave a message to get me to call them back, because I'm usually I'm running all over the place in here.
Yeah.
But at this time of year after Halloween, it does kind of die down till about beginning of January, February, before it kicks back in a little bit, but it doesn't really, it hasn't slowed down a bit, to tell you the truth. this year has been a banner year for us.
That's great for
So,
business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. I have
Have
one last question for you. I don't know
Okay.
how well you will answer it because I don't know. But what is your definition of a bass head?
Yes.
Now you're looking at him. Yeah, we start out younger. Yeah, when I was younger in age, man, I'd get in my car, crank that stereo as loud as it could go, and just sit there. Yeah, this is fun. As you get older, you kind of turn it down a little bit, and you get too old. Now you're on, whatever talk radio. But anyhow, it's just that that love to feel that you feel the music, you hear it, your car shakes, and you piss everybody off in the neighborhood, of course. But that's.
I think that's probably one of the best answers I've heard.
Yeah, we asked that of all our guests. So.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So that, I mean, I don't know. You just can't get too much sometimes. I don't know.
I would agree with that. All right, Dave, any last words from you, sir?
No, that is it. That was a great answer. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
All right.
That was good. Good talking to you guys. It was good.
And then for me, once again, check out our YouTube channel. That'd be This Week in Car Audio is the YouTube channel. I changed the name to it, so if you guys want to see, you can see all the old episodes. You can also pick us up on iHeart, iTunes, Apple, Podbean. If I'm missing anything and you want me to add it to the list, you just email me or text me or message me. Let me know, and I will get that on the streaming platforms also. Another thing we need to do is I need to get to 1,000 members on YouTube. So guys, help me out. Get me as many people as you can. Join my YouTube group. Once I get to 1,000 members, I can start monetizing my YouTube page. So guys, help me out there if you would, please. We're only at like 290. We put on all our events live at every show. You can see us on Facebook, on Sonic FX. That's where I broadcast all my events live on that page. I'm going to start broadcasting them on YouTube also, since now I have this whole setup going on. Let's see. We got next weekend. We have Fresno. The weekend after that, we'll be in Sacramento. We'll start getting on that. I need some East Coast guys, any East Coast competitors out there that would love to be on the This Week in Car Audio, or somebody have a suggestion. Please hit me or Lucky up in our DMs, or you can email or text me. My number is the easiest number to find on the internet. Just look up Doug Stockton, and my number will pop right up. Phone number. My phone number is on Facebook. I am the easiest guy in the world to find. So if you guys have a West Coast competitor, Lucky says he wants to talk to a competitor next week, because me talking to all these smart guys kind of makes him feel like he ain't smart. So, so he says,
I'm going to show you. I'm going to move over and show you my banner.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, I like that. So
Lucky would like that. That's lots of watts.
Lots of watts. That's Lucky's brand.
Right.
Lots of watts.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah. So, but anyway, hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for sitting in. Dave Bradshaw with Team Send It. If you guys got any more things to get, just email or call Tom and his group over at Ohio Generators. If you're a dealer, how would they find out? Do they do the same thing? Go to the website and register to the website to become a
just
dealer?
call us. Yeah.
Okay. So get with them and become a dealer, and show the guys who come on here and explain stuff. Obviously, we try to get the best quality guys we can. As you've seen with all, we've had Kip on here, we had Tom, we had the gentleman from what was the one last week? Matt. Yep, we had Matt last week. Scotty Johnson coming up, Nick with Incriminator. So, I mean, we do definitely try and get the best quality people so that they can explain their products and whatnot. So, competitors, let's hear some competitors. We'll get some competitors on here. They don't have to be a world champion. They just have to be around for a while and understand what they're doing, because I'd love to start discussing box design with a handful of people, and that would be really where I'd like to see next. Nyman says he can come on next week. Nyman's always ready to come on. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys once again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to This Week in Car Audio. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dave. Lucky, hope things get better for you, dude, and check in with us next week. But anyway, we are out. Next week.
Out of here.
Yep, next week, Monday, 6 p.m. California time. We'll be back live with This Week in Car Audio.
Whoa, whoa.